New York City Mayor Eric Adams today announced he will bring back a policing anti-gun unit that was disbanded back in 2020 during the George Floyd protests and will deploy more cops to the streets. 22-year-old Jason Rivera was shot to death, and a second officer, his partner, is fighting for his life after responding to a call in Harlem Friday night. 5 NYPD officers have been shot so far this month. The White House today condemned the shooting, but is facing growing pressure over its response to the surge in crime.
He said that the president's never satisfied if people don't feel safe. Does he know that after a year in office, people do not feel safe in this country?
Well, Peter, I think if we look at the facts here, we've seen a surge of crime over the last 2 years. Gun violence is a huge reason for the surge in crime.
Gun violence, as if it's the guns committing the violence. She's right, though. We've seen a huge surge in crime, particularly in cities where the district attorneys believe throwing people in jail does not tackle, in their words, the core issues, the larger issues, driving crime. Take Los Angeles, for example. Here is the DA, George Gascon, where homicides are up 94% and grand theft auto is up 59%.
In many ways, we cannot prosecute our way out of social inequalities, income inequalities, the unhoused, the desperation that we have.
Joining us now, Keith Ross, who spent decades in the NYPD, including serving in that anti-gun unit. Jason Nichols, senior lecturer at the University of Maryland. I've never been able to say this. Professors, nice to see both of you. Thank you. Jason, is Jen Psaki speaking to a political reality the White House is going to have to start dealing with, that the rise in crime is an issue that, rightly or wrongly, people are starting to hold Democrats responsible for?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to recognize that crime is usually a local issue, so it's not something directly that the president is responsible for. But I do think that Democrats and Republicans, all of us, have a responsibility to attack crime in the best ways possible. Now, we all disagree sometimes on ways to do that. You alluded to things like throwing people in jail and sentencing, when it's been proven over and over, even by the Department of Justice, that long sentences do not deter future crime. It just doesn't work that way. And the fact that, the person in LA was talking about some of the root causes of crime, if you really want to attack it, any police executive, I've spoken to several of them, they'll tell you that they get frustrated that people use the backstop instead of getting ahead of things like housing and education. You can't arrest your way out of social problems. So I think we would support our police best by attacking some of these other issues.
I understood, but while we're attacking the right root issues, and Keith, I think I'll let you to respond to this, but is there a medium ground here where you attack both the root causes and you also don't allow people out on no cash bail or recognizant bail, or you prosecute felonies?
Well, I think the issue here is, what do we really want to do? Do we want to fight crime? Do we want to tackle social issues? Now, obviously, we want to do that together. However, I'm wondering, is that really a police or a law enforcement issue? This really, and I think this is really one of the reasons why Mayor Adams is talking about re-implementing a sort of anti-crime unit to specifically and proactively address crime, because no matter what, the statistics do show that violent crime, violent felonies are increasing in New York City and really in a majority of urban centers within the U.S.
Jason, I always understand the diversion to, hey, long sentences don't solve anything. We got to address root causes. At some point, though, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? Crime's up around the country by double digits. The cities that's up the most in have DAs who have a different view of prosecuting, thinking about Chicago, thinking about St. Louis, thinking about Los Angeles, thinking about Milwaukee, where the DA in Milwaukee, all the way back in 2007, it said, is there going to be an individual I divert or put into a treatment program rather than go to jail, who's going to go out and kill somebody? You bet, guaranteed it's going to happen. Would it be better to simply admit that the cost of all these social programs is going to be more crime?
No, I don't believe that's true. I actually like what Professor Ross said.
You don't believe what the DA? You don't believe what the Milwaukee DA said was true?
I think what we need is community policing. And what benefits police is good relationships and trusting relationships with the communities that they police. And we know that those relationships at times have suffered, and that's one of the things that makes it a whole lot harder on police. And community policing works. We've seen it. There's a study out of New Haven, from Yale University that shows that community policing and those relationships being built by uniformed officers actually makes crime drop. And I can say with some of the actions that Mayor Adams is calling for, I agree with some of them, but some of them I think are not going to attack the issue. Like, for example, with some of the plainclothes police officers and some of those things that they're trying to do that actually oftentimes confuse the public and lead to things like resisting arrest.
Jason, in a number of cities now, they're not even going to prosecute resisting arrest. At least that's how I understand, Keith. It's going to be in New York. Is Jason right that these plainclothes units and the anti-crime task force units don't help?
Respectfully, I am going to disagree with you. I think what the issue here is, how are we deploying these plainclothes units, these anti-crime units? Are we deploying them looking for a quality outcome or a quantity outcome? I would say that my esteemed colleague's criticism is in the fact that these units were deployed particularly just for a quantitative aspect, meaning that, these police officers, they go out and they have to, quote unquote, obtain some sort of, not quota, but a productivity goal that must be met on a month-to-month basis.
So, Jason, how do we do this, that we get the crime rate down? Because we can't get away from the fact that crime has exploded, and it has exploded in cities, it's exploded across the country, but particularly in cities with these types of policies. How do we not link those two things while at the same time being willing to deal with the social issues on the other side?
Well, again, I would disagree with that. There are cities that are, run by Republicans that have had lots of violent crime. I'll just name Jacksonville, Florida, which has seen rises in violent crime, in murders, in many other crime categories. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Some of the same arguments that many people on the right were making about Democratic-run cities, the cities that are run by Republicans and continue to do the exact same ways that we've been doing for a long time in terms of policing certain communities and sometimes not having regard for their civil liberties, hasn't necessarily netted better results. So I think we need to look at this from a holistic perspective, and with what Professor Ross said, I actually agree. I don't think we necessarily disagree that a lot of it is the ways in which these task forces are deployed. And, I think there are also other issues involved as well. But I would agree with him largely that it is the way they are deployed.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Good to see you both. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.